This is about how to help improve the lives of Bali dogs. Maybe you visited on holidays and you want to help improve the lives of Bali dogs. And in my experience, it's the street feeders, as I said in a different video, the street feeders who do the most. The charities are limited, as any organization is, by its organizational requirements and everything like that. But buying directly Simparica, the biggest tablet, so they can divide it, Mectin, Mectin, or even parental promote from Timbal Jaya Pet Shop. Most of the street feeders have accounts there and they'll know the people and they'll deliver directly, as well as bags of 20 kg bags of dog choice lamb. That's going to be the most efficient. A lot of people come to Bali and they want to reinvent the wheel and they have lofty ideas. They see how poor the conditions are for dogs in the street and for cats and stuff. But I'd point out, say, for example, Villa Kitty. They're the gold standard. They've got years, maybe decades of experience doing it. They're proactive. They're helping loads of cats. In that situation, your best bet is just going to be giving them money if you want to do the most effective and efficient way to help. Likewise with street feeders, there's well-known street feeders. You can ask on the Facebook groups who are the street feeders and directly buy the medicine and worming tablets and food. And if you directly buy it, it can't go on anything else. I mean, you may not know the people personally. You can trust a charity like Villa Kitty, for example, who are helping cats. But you may not know them personally, but there's nothing else they can do with that medicine except give it to dogs in their area. And if they've been recommended to you on Facebook, then they're going to be the people who are well known. They're going to be doing it. So that food and medicine is definitely going to go to the dogs. Whether or not they'll give you any feedback, I don't know. It depends on the rescuer. Sometimes they're not very savvy with that, but they're excellent at helping the dogs. So my recommendation is to do something like that. If you're there yourself, the dog's outside your area, you can get your road, for example. You can ask around if they're sterilized. You can check, you can see. And you can call a vet and you can get them to sterilize the females. Sometimes sterilizing the males puts them in a bit of danger. They don't have the testosterone. They end up getting taken for dog meat. So the solution's not exactly simple. And people have this idea the solution is sterilization. That's because they don't know what the hell they're talking about, because they never did anything. I mean, the solution is to sterilize human beings so we'll stop destroying the planet, but nobody's putting forward that idea. The solution is to give the dogs help with what they need. If the dogs have no hair and scabies burrowed under their skin, then you give them medicine for that. After that, they'll become a lot friendlier. Yeah, getting them sterilized is great, but there are reasons the dogs are not sterilized in Bali. And there's much bigger reasons, and it has to do with money. And it's not a lack of money, it's that it's more profitable to have street dogs around, and that's the sad truth. And so yeah, I definitely recommend getting the females sterilized around where you are, but that's not the full solution. And unless you have years of experience helping the dogs, you probably won't know the full solution and won't get to know the full solution. But what can be done is immediate action. If you're there, you get tablets of Simparica XL, 40 to 56 kgs. You got 5, 10 kg dogs outside your place, split it in 5, give it to each of them and give each of them a tablet of Mectin. And for about less than €10, now you've transformed their lives. They're no longer itchy. Within 3 hours, they recover fully. They got great hair. Everybody loves them on the street, and everyone starts giving them food because that's how it works. So that's your best bet in that situation. You can get the females sterilized. You can get the dogs vaccinated. It's easy to find cheap vets who'll come out and do it. But you'll need to get the dog friendly enough to the point where you're able to hold it to get an injection. And a dog that's covered in mange and is being ill-treated is not exactly ready for that. So you're making the dog a little bit friendlier, and then you can sterilize, and then you let everyone around there know that you've sterilized the dog. So like I said, I think that the street feeders are the most effective in terms of helping dogs. They've got a proven track record. They proactively will sterilize dogs. So your best bet is to help them first. If you're there and you want to do stuff yourself, then there's nothing wrong with giving skin medicine and giving food regularly. Just buy the offcuts of chicken feet or chicken heads. It's a bit more ethical because they're not killing the chickens for that. If you want to go vegan, go ahead and get brown rice and whatever else the dogs will eat. But Yeah, and feeding them regularly, and then showing other people and getting other people to know their personalities and telling them, I got the dogs sterilised, I got the dogs vaccinated, they're not going to multiply, they're not going to be a pest, they're going to protect your property. If these dogs aren't here, other dogs who aren't sterilised, who aren't vaccinated, are going to come in, they're going to multiply, and show them by example. And that's a really good way to help the dogs. But I've seen other people come along with big ideas about setting up websites and everything else, and they end up doing absolutely nothing and wasting a lot of time. And so I have to see people who actually have results, who have a bit of experience. You need to go out on the streets and help before you know what's best yourself, or listen to people like me who've already done it, who've treated with both worming tablet and skin medicine more than 4,000 dogs. I've got fed tens of thousands of dogs and sterilised many as well. I mean, not in those kind of numbers, like 30, 40 dogs, something like that, and found homes for about 20. But for one person, without any organisation, just doing it in my spare time as fun and as a bit of service, that's pretty good. And it's unmatched by any organisation as well, you know. So my question would be as to why that is. I mean, it's the obvious thing to do, is because organisations end up having to support their own selves, not being of service to the dogs, and maybe not keeping the dogs in the best of situations. But there are some great places, but I'm not impressed. And if they were really trying to get homes for the dogs, they just go out in the street, treat all the dogs, talk to all the families, offer to get the dogs sterilised in return to take a puppy from the shelter. Not rocket science. Not rocket science at all. It doesn't even. You could have an IQ of 80 and realise that that's true. So people who are doing this are not completely stupid. It's just that they get to the point where they're smothered with 500 dogs or 200 dogs, and they've got them in cages and they have to be walked and fed and vaccinated and sterilised and brought to the vet and all that. But what ends up happening is the street dogs don't get any help, and nobody's doing anything proactive, really. And there's occasional sterilisation programs, but not all that much. So the best thing to do is be a good example, point out to other people how to do it, share the information on Facebook, encourage other people to do it in their area, encourage people to do a bit of this, like housekeeping, you know, just keeping control of the leaves and the rubbish outside your house. You sweep it up, you put it in the bin, or if it's leaves, you put it in the compost. And it's not rocket science. Just sterilise the dogs outside where you live, give them skin medicine and give them a bit of food. Act like a decent human being. And it's not hard. And when the locals see you do that, some of them already do it, but more of them will do it. Now, that's fairly simple. You know, but people overlook simple solutions. They want to have the big, giant, solve-it-all solution. They end up doing nothing. And absence of information is probably not the issue, because if you go onto any Facebook group in Bali, there's 100, 200 people who all know, maybe more, maybe 1,000, 2,000 people who all know about skin medicine, deworming, places to get sterilised. So immediately, if you go onto Facebook and put up a few photos, and people are willing to pay the local vet, willing to pay for the sterilisation, they're willing to put a bit of time and energy into doing something, they'll be able to get it done. So my recommendation is to have respect for people who've put in the hard yards and who've done a lot of work and who have the proof and the results to show what they have achieved with minimal effort, just basic housekeeping, you know, like just helping the dogs out in the street that you see. It's not rocket science. And the whole dog rescue world is completely amateurish, you know, it's just giving food, it's just being kind. So that's how it's done. And to get more people doing that is the only way to have any kind of solution. So I suggest that any energy that's put in it should be put into that, and having conversations with people and saying to people, you know, do you think it's okay that you spend $2,000 on yourself a year and or a month and let the dog starve outside your house? Do you think that's normal? It's not normal. It's worse behaviour than the dogs. It's more stingy. The dogs are far more generous than that. And yet it happens. And then to have conversations with the neighbours about stuff like that. And, you know, in Bali, they've got a fantastic dharma, fantastic religion. So how about proactively helping the dogs? Making good karma. Proactively practicing ethical conduct. It's not complicated. If your generosity and ethical conduct is worse than a dog. Reincarnation's true. Guess what's going to happen to you in the next life? And if it doesn't happen to you in the next life, guess what will happen in the life after that, and the next billion lives after that? And whose fault will it be? Because your karma is individual, based on your behavior, your ethics, your instinct, your habitual tendencies. Your consciousness will go on to a new life. And if we were just saying, oh, it's somebody else's dog, it's somebody else's problem, I'm not going to get involved, why do I have to do everything? And making all excuses. And you can't just spend 50 quid, 100 quid to help 4 or 5 dogs get sterilised and vaccinated and having skin medicine and give them a little bit of food every day. Then you deserve to go down to the animal and ghost and hell ramps. That'd be the right place for you. So we have to have a think about that as individuals, and we have to have conversations about that, because we're willing to have conversations about absolute nonsense that we see in the news, absolute nonsense about politics. We don't even understand the basics of social policy, and we'll have these conversations about football. We couldn't kick a football straight. And we're afraid to have conversations about what our actions in this life will lead to in future lives. But we should be having conversations about stuff like that, because stuff like that's sensible, and we'll come to some very interesting insights if we do, and we'll behave well if we do. And it'll give us an incentive to not drive by the 5 dogs starving and tearing the skin off themselves every day, and still, with our big ego, thinking we're a great person, until we find out in the next few billion lives we're not a person at all. We've no chance of getting back there. So that's what happens if we live our lives selfishly. So we have to put what's best for the dogs first before we come to any ideas of solutions. And giving the basic care and basic medicine, supporting the street feeders, the local Balinese ladies who are out doing it, and a few Indonesian ladies and a few Indonesian guys as well, but mostly local ladies. So we give them the food and the medicine that they need. It's simple. It's simple, because they're doing the vast majority and they're proactively sterilising. And when they get a great organisation like Bali Pet Crusaders doing a big sterilisation, we offer to sponsor a few dogs, or we offer to pay their vet bill, or even the shelters and stuff. There's a few great people, they advertise their vet bills. Pay off their vet bill, why not? Spend money. I mean, do a calculation on how much money you spend in the last year on yourself, on investments, how much money that you received, and how much money you spent completely altruistically and gave it to living beings that you had no chance of getting something back from. And if it's less than 5 or 10%, you're in big trouble. The money is a very easy way to see where the habitual tendencies lie. So that's a good calculation to make if you're sensible, but it can be hard for people to do that. So my suggestion is, with anything to do with dog rescue, one has to be completely pragmatic and no nonsense, and not let it be about a sense of self, and not let it be about me, and not let it be about, oh, what can I come up with, what big solution, because the people who are doing it for years and decades, they already know. So, and they're the ones who are effective and are publishing their statistics, and you can go around with them and see what they do. Get a load of skin medicine, go around with them. And the dogs that need it, give it to the dogs, because it's so hard for them to get money together every month. They get no support from any organisation. Almost no support at all, except with people, foreigners, that they meet on the street. So it'd be good if the locals started to practice some good karma, some generosity, human behaviour. That would be good, towards animals at least. Because with the animals, it's not transactional. With humans, we can always be generous to other people, because we'll get something back from them in the future. It's called transactions. It's not really called generosity, is it? Yeah, but the dogs are generous at least.